Hey guys, what's up? So, let's have a little chat. Rather, let's have you guys endure me sort of rambling about something that's sort of been in my mind lately. I say sort of, you'll see what I mean in a moment. So, I recently saw Skallagrim's and Shadversity's videos on YouTube and burnout and having to deal with trying to, you know, make a living, do their careers, like do their job on YouTube with the way YouTube keeps changing things up and the struggles they've been dealing with. And seeing those videos prompted me to make this one because they're kind of touching on a topic that I've wanted to talk about for a while now. Not specifically YouTube burnout per se. More, I've wanted to make a video for a while now talking about this channel, what I want to do with it, why it is the way it is, and the direction I wanted to start taking things, but my worries about it. But this also branches into something that I've already touched on with YouTube in terms of the direction that this platform has gone in and where it seems to want to go. I've actually talked about this way in the past, and with a few people that I know who are content creators, much smaller ones and old school dudes, they know my thoughts on this. I've spoken to them at length about this before. And it's kind of funny how some of them, like, I remember I many years in the past, I kind of said that I see them going in this direction. And a couple of them were like, yeah, I don't know. And now they're like, oh, you were right. So let me get into this. And I have to warn you, I'm going to be kind of going off the cuff here. Usually when I make videos, I try to have at least an outline of the points that I want to make. Particularly like with, my sword videos or talking about martial arts stuff, I, try to at least write out an outline. I don't write a script. I know that would probably make things a little bit easier on myself and make things a little bit more coherent video-wise, but I tend not to do a script because I want things to feel a bit more conversational, a bit more natural. But in this case, it's going to be very natural because I don't have anything written out. This is just me vomiting my thoughts to you guys, and I hope that you're able to get something out of it. If not, I understand. There's plenty of other videos on YouTube to watch, but let me just get on with this because I've already wasted enough time. So, here's the thing about YouTube. And I'm going to say something that a lot of people have already stated, but I might as well say it here. The you aspect in YouTube, meaning the average person coming on here, making videos and being able to like do something sustainable on here, has been gone for quite some time. At least for the average person doing it. It used to be that, well, I guess you can argue it still is that way, but it's not exactly the same way anymore. Like way back in about, like, say 2006, 2007, 2008, when you were putting videos up on YouTube, it was almost like just about anybody had a chance to be able to have an audience and, be able to have a back and forth, a dialogue with people. And there really wasn't this thing of YouTube celebrity yet. I mean, there were a few, but it wasn't like the way it is now. It was more, there were a few people who really blew up and made it, but they tended to be very, very entertainment oriented, and they tended to get on a lot of people's nerves. Like, dare I mention Fred, if anybody remembers him and those earlier channels. Now, it used to be like, you went to YouTube and it was sort of the wild, wild west on what topics you can find and what type of videos you can find. And it felt a little bit more organic and a little bit more community oriented. Things changed quite a bit once Google took over and then started pushing this kind of revenue aspect to it, where it's like, you guys can get paid talking about things you want to talk about on YouTube. And, putting out their partner program and it being a big deal. I remember even I was, I never thought I would get one, but I still remember when I got an offer for a partner program, I'm like, oh my God, I got a partner program, which cracks me up now because it's not like I really made all that much money off of it. And I'll get into that later. But I remember that became such a big deal, and that really changed things for people, both in good and bad ways. It was in a good way, in the sense that people could do something that they liked and could talk about things that they had a passion about and actually be able to make a living off of it, which for many people was, that's a very good thing. If you was like stuck in a dead-end job or something, or you were just not happy with, how you're earning your income in the typical wage slave sort of living, then all of a sudden you can get on YouTube and just do a few videos about something you really like, and you get an audience willing to see that video, and you're bringing in ad revenue. You're like, oh wow, now you got money, you can live off of that, you can put food on your table doing that. That's an amazing thing. That's an awesome thing. And, the people who have been able to do that and be successful at it, I'm really glad they were able to do it. It is a blessing. And there are a lot of people out there who I watch, and a couple of people who I even consider friends, like Skallagrim, for instance, who I'm very happy that they were able to leverage this to put food on the table rather than having to do some soulless work for some entity that doesn't really give a damn about them, just to be able to make ends meet. And then they're, tiring themselves out, burning themselves out, using all this time benefiting this other person, but not themselves. YouTube, it was supposed to be an escape from that. At least that was what was offered. But a funny thing happened along the way. That faceless entity thing that didn't really care about them is what YouTube became and actually is. Because there's something that a lot of people have forgotten, and it's something that I personally have never forgotten. And I saw the writing on the wall a very long time ago, way before people started complaining about the adpocalypse or, the algorithm or anything like that. And the thing I haven't forgotten is this. You never trust a business. Ever. You never trust a business when they come to you like, we're on your side, we're here for you. Don't trust them. Because they're not on your side. They're never on your side. They'll say they're on your side, and they might pretend to be on your side until they aren't. And the YouTube situation is a really good example of that. Without really going too much into specifics, the thing that people need to remember about Google, because remember, they bought YouTube. Once they bought YouTube, Google, if you remember, is in the business of advertising. They make their money off of marketing things to other people and getting other advertisers to market things to people. Their biggest treasure trove, their most valuable asset, is the information that they have gathered from those that use their products, particularly most obviously their browser, Chrome, and their search engine. The more people that use that, the more data they gather from them, and the more advertisers can gear their ads, marketing, and whatever to those specific people. And YouTube became a vehicle for that, because they can not only tailor the ads specifically to your tastes, depending on where else you went on the internet, using their browser and using their search engine, but I'm quite certain that the videos you watch can also help influence the type of ads that you get. And of course, won't be surprised if the way they used to leverage videos, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's still happening now, but I know it definitely happened in the past, that whatever videos you watched, is going to influence the ads you get, and the ads you get are also going to help to influence the videos you watch, that sort of perpetuating cycle. But you need to get an audience. You need to gather an audience for that first. And in the beginning, the talent wasn't going to be coming from them. It's not like people in Google are really good at making videos that people want to watch. But we, just the average person, we're really good at talking to each other about things that we like. Whether we're talking to our friends or whether we're at our job in front of the water coolers or something and we're talking about games or the movies we've seen or a hobby we have, we can be really good at engaging one another. So when we're making videos to bring in audiences, talking about the things that we like, and then other like-minded people come in, yeah, you got that audience right there, which Google loves to see. All these people gather around one video, and you can advertise to them and then gather their data that you can sell to other companies to advertise to them, make them even more money. So in the beginning, it's like, yeah, come on board, share all this ad revenue. We're all in this stuff together. And once they were able to exploit you the way you needed to be exploited, you're no longer considered to be valuable. At least not as valuable as you originally were. Because now you guys are a dime a dozen. Everyone wants to be YouTube famous. Everybody wants to be the next big thing. Everybody now wants to be the next person to go viral. So there's no shortage of people that Google can exploit in order to bring in their ad revenue, their, the data that they need to sell to others. And now they can court celebrities to do that, because celebrities are also a huge, big draw. I still remember people getting really mad when people like Will Smith was, oh, I'm going to have a YouTube channel. I'm like, what the hell? Of course they give him top billing and he gets, lots of views and stuff like that, and the money comes rolling in, and you're like, wait a minute, what about us? What about us content creators? It's like they don't care about us. It's like, yes and no. It's not like they don't completely care about you. They still need you guys to make these videos, and the next big thing is, who's the next person who's going to be trying to make, say, millions off of YouTube. That's rare. That's like, forget that. But, all these dozens of smaller channels, all these, or say mid-sized channels or whatever, that's still bringing in a good sizable audience that Google can use to gather data on, to make money off of. These viewers are being, exploited just like the content creators are being exploited. So it's not like you guys are not, it's not like they don't care about you. They're just not caring about you in a way that you would prefer. You're cared for as a resource, not as a partner or even a customer. You're a consumer. And even the content creators they sort of see as generating stuff for consumers to consume. Which, by the way, it's always cracked me up how the term consumer has been so widely accepted by people. I don't understand how people don't see that word as an insult. Cows are consumers. Livestock are consumers. I'd rather be a customer, because that denotes somebody who's actually a bit more discerning about what it is that I'm going to acquire with my money or my resources. But that's a topic for another time. With the way Google has to constantly keep leveraging things with YouTube in order to try to generate money, it makes it harder and harder for content creators to do what they have to do in order to put food on the table. Because remember, Google's going to be caring more about its bottom line than its content creators' bottom line. I mean, they're a business and they're here to generate money. They're here to try to make a profit. And YouTube has been a huge money sink for them for quite some time. And it continues to be a money sink. I remember like several years ago, I was reading how they weren't even able to make a profit with this thing. I don't know about nowadays if they were able to make a profit with it or not, if they were finally able to kind of bring it into the black. But if they are, I'm pretty sure it's by a very narrow margin. They have to try to find a way to recoup costs somewhere, or try to find a way to kind of leverage things. And all these changes that they're doing ultimately is to try for them to justify the costs for keeping this platform going. Because they do still see some value in it. Otherwise, they wouldn't keep doing it. But that makes things rougher for the content creators that have to make these videos in order to put food on their table. And it's funny seeing all this back and forth, this kind of seesaw thing going on with the content creators trying to make a living off of YouTube, and YouTube trying to offset some of the things that people have done in order to continue making money. Like when that adpocalypse thing first happened many years ago, what a lot of content creators ended up doing was looking at other sources of income. Since they weren't able to get it from the ads anymore, they moved on to things like Patreon. And one of the things that they would do is, like to entice people to get on Patreon is like, okay, we'll turn off the ads in our videos since the ads were becoming more and more intrusive and more annoying to viewers. It's like, you join on my Patreon, if I get enough money for that, from that, I'll cut off the ads, because from that point, I'm barely making any money off the ads anyway. So, I'll just mostly get it off Patreon. But if you're cutting off the ads, and Google's not getting their cut. So now they got to try to find a way to bring money in from that. And that's when they came up with their tip jar and other things to try to get people like, no, you use our platform to get the money. Don't go here. You're pulling money away from us. And yeah, it's funny just seeing the kind of back and forth and the balancing. Not to mention the fact that, remember, they're also trying to please, their ad providers. And there was this whole subject on what videos are considered ad friendly. There was a whole hullabaloo over that, and it's still happening now. I remember it wasn't even that long ago where it was okay to at least be able to use adult language in your videos. Got my cat yelling at me. Nowadays, you use that language, you're pretty much like guaranteeing that you're not going to be seen on the front page. Like nowadays, like everyone, I'm seeing the concern, like, is it before people used to be able to see my videos easily, and now it doesn't matter whether you have a subscription or not. Now you got the whole recommended page, and unless you clicked on the bell or whatever, even that's not a guarantee. And now, it isn't just the fact that you got to worry about whether subscribers can see your videos or not, but if you happen to show any dirty language, if you happen to talk about subject matter that they consider to be unfriendly to ads, that can cut into your revenue. That can cut into whether you're seen or not. The freedom is slowly going away because it's being more about rigid marketing and money. Once you start throwing that into the mix, these restrictions are going to come in immediately, because YouTube, quite frankly, is becoming way more mainstream, which is inevitable with just about anything that gets popular. It becomes more mainstream. Once things become more mainstream, that's when you want to keep things in this sort of lowest common denominator sort of thing. I shouldn't say lowest common denominator. It's more, you want to keep things middle of the road. You want to keep things kind of mediocre. You don't want things too wild and, going too far in one direction or the other, because keeping things kind of bland and approachable is the most marketable. It's why pop music is popular, but really extreme metal isn't. Or, it's why there's certain patterns you hear in music and certain things, that reoccurring themes and song lyrics and stuff like that always seem to remain the same, because that's the popular stuff that has a wider appeal. The more extreme it gets, the more extreme it gets, the more it becomes less marketable to a mass audience. And remember, businesses are always trying to get as much as possible, so they're going to want to throw as wide a net as possible. If you're a little too niche, or if you're considered to be subject matter that might be considered risque, that only a smaller group are going to appreciate, then yeah, you're going to end up getting tossed to the wayside. It's just how it is. And if your passion happens to fall on these areas that aren't as appreciated, you're suddenly out of luck. A few years before, you might have been able to find your audience, but now it's hard for that audience to find you, because YouTube is seeing you more as a liability than as an asset. And all these things are things that I saw a long time ago. I saw this coming a long time ago. And it's one of the main reasons why my channel is the way it is. Several years back, when I was experiencing sort of a burnout situation, I had to ask myself a serious question. What am I doing this for? When I first jumped on this channel on YouTube, quite frankly, I did it to answer somebody else's question that I thought, it was K by Mech. For those of you who've been around for a very long time, those of you who've been with me since the very beginning, you know who K by Mech is. He had put a video out on education. I thought it was really interesting, and I felt I had to answer the guy. But at the time, there was a limit in how many characters can be on your comment, and I had so much to say. So I went out, bought a cheap camera, and answered him directly. This was back when you could actually answer a video with your own video and have it like connected on the bottom. I miss those days when you can have your video instantly respond to somebody else's video, because again, that whole community feel aspect to it. And this channel became a vehicle for me to just talk about what I felt like talking about. It was supposed to be about my interests. And to be honest, this channel still is supposed to be a vehicle for me to talk about my interests. However, my interests happen to lie in more than just martial arts and swords. I'm a nerd, so I have interest in video games, in movies, in fantasy books, in Magic the Gathering, card games. There's a lot of things that you guys probably don't even know that I'm really, really into, that I haven't barely been able to discuss here. And of course, those of you who've been with me since the beginning know that I also love talking about social issues, philosophical topics. Those are the things that really go on in my mind constantly. You know, the state of the world, ideologies, things that we believe in, you know, ethics, you know, the nature of our reality, things like that. These are the things that I really like to discuss and talk about. But I ran into an issue that people like me tend to run into when we start putting our views up, you know, on a platform where a lot of people can see you. I'm a melanin-saturated individual. And there are people out there that don't like it when melanin-saturated individuals speak their mind. The amount of harassment and death threats I used to get depending on certain topics I brought up would be hilarious at times. I'm not saying this, by the way, for you guys to feel sorry for me or anything like that. And it's not to say that I got depressed or, you know, I was downhearted when this. I knew the risk I was taking, okay? And I was already used to being the type of person that would say something that would get everybody else to turn around. What did you say? I'm already used to that. But it soon got to the point where I started wondering, what the hell am I doing this for if it was just to be harassed? You know, I wanted to, you know, I wanted to like speak about the things that I like talking about with like-minded individuals and having a decent conversation and being able to at least getting people to think, oh, this is something I like to do. And I wasn't even making any money off of this. There's never really been a moment when this partnership thing, of my, you know, being on AdSense, the ad revenue that I'm supposed to be getting, there's never been a moment when the money I've made on here is actually put food on my table. It would maybe put gas in my car, maybe get me a snack or two, but I never received a large check from Google from what I do on here. This is not to say that it's the main motivation for me to do this. This is like a hobby for me, and it was an enjoyable hobby for me, and it more or less still is. And after a while, I started feeling an obligation to the people who stayed with me in all this time, and even the new people that just jump in, see my content, and want to subscribe. I feel a bit of an obligation to continue putting videos up on here, because as long as you guys want to see it, might as well provide it, right? You know, you guys like it, I like doing it. Let's keep it going. Let's have a good time. But there was a moment, you know, when several years back when I started wondering, okay, why am I putting, because there was a time when I started getting aggravated with some of the responses I used to get. And there was one topic I remember brought up that actually had people literally, it was like they were bringing in hit squads. Like they were like sharing my videos on message boards I didn't even know about to bring people to come in specifically to try to knock me down a peg. And I was like, why the hell am I doing this and I'm not even properly getting paid for this? Like, this is ridiculous. And I had to seriously sit back and think about, why am I doing this? And then I remembered that the reason why I was doing it is because it's a hobby. And the thing about hobbies is you can put in as much effort as you want to put in. No one's forcing you one way or another to continue doing it or not. It's for your own self-enjoyment. And if there's an aspect of the hobby that is stressing you out, then do something about it that isn't going to stress you out. And that's when I started talking more about martial arts stuff, because I'm like, let me just talk about stuff that that I know I'm probably not going to get too much harassment over. Started talking more about the swords I was getting, talking about more martial arts stuff. And that's what I became known for. These days, I think people will be very shocked to find out, especially newer people, to find out that this is not how this channel got started. And to be perfectly honest, I don't want this channel to just be known as that, even though I know that is pretty much what it's known for these days. There's so many things I want to talk about, especially with what's been going on in the past few years. But now I feel like I'm in this weird sort of situation where it's like, okay, on one hand, since I don't need this channel, again, is not what's putting food on my table. I have a regular day job. You know, I do IT work. That's what I do. That's what pays my bills. So on one hand, if I decide to suddenly talk about a topic other than swords and martial arts, and most of you guys go, to hell with this, and walk away, so there's only 5 people that watch my content, okay, so be it. If those 5 people like it, great, and I'll continue making it for them. But on the other hand, I have this thing of I don't really want to disappoint people if I suddenly shift gears and put out a video one day that's on a completely different topic, and they're like, what the hell? You know? But I've wanted to, you know, talk about this stuff for some time. So it's like I feel like I'm in this weird catch-22, but I'm not feeling the sting that other content creators may have to put up with if they want to talk about something different. See, I think part of what is burning out a lot of people making videos on YouTube, besides the fact that they got to fight with the algorithm and fight with Google shenanigans, you know, the way they run a channel and how their videos are possibly being suppressed or not suppressed, or just, you know, what's going on with it. I think it's also that we're not these one-dimensional beings who only think about one thing. You know, a lot of channels out there. I watch a lot of channels. There's a lot of channels on YouTube I really, really like. Besides, like I watch Skallagrim, who's, it's probably a bit of bias since he's a friend of mine, but I out of all the different weapons channels, I probably watch his the most. Metatron, I really like his channel. Shadversity, I check his stuff out sometimes. And then besides weapons stuff, I also check out like Ross Scott. I love his stuff. And I got to get back to his channel in a bit, because he actually is a good example of what I want to do. Not video game stuff. You'll see what I mean. You know, I watch this stuff, or Vadi Vidya, and it all, you know, because I'm into Dark Souls and Soul stuff. There's a lot of channels I watch. Accented Cinema, like a lot of stuff I watch. But the thing I notice about a lot of these channels, especially the channels that really start getting a really big audience, is that they tend to only talk about one thing, because that's how they're able to generate their revenue. You know, Vadi Vidya got big because he was making lore videos about Souls games. I am quite certain that he cares about more than just Souls games. I'm quite certain there's a whole lot of other things that he would love to talk about, but his channel is now known as the Souls, like the lore channel. And if that's not what he's producing, he's going to lose views. He's got to put food on the table. That's his main job now. I'm pretty sure other like weapons channels, they're known for doing weapon stuff. If one day they decide to start talking about comic books, might piss some people off. They're going to lose ad revenue. They're going to lose views. They got to put food on the table. But talking about one thing over and over and over again, that's a good way to cause some burnout. Especially if nothing new is being injected in, right? What else? What are you going to talk about? But you still need to keep putting out a video. You can't just like sit down for months at a time not putting anything up. Sooner or later, people are going to say something, unless you got like unless you've built up a lot of goodwill, and then you like every now and then show up saying something's in the works. You know, please wait. If you've built up enough goodwill, maybe you might be able to get away with it once or twice or so on. But you still need to come out with something. And if what you're known for is just one type of thing, that's a really good way to kill your creativity. And that's one of the reasons why I like Ross Scott, because yeah, he was originally known as the Freeman's Mind guy. I love Freeman's Mind. I love Game Dungeon. Those are some of I always look forward to the next installment that he does on those. But he's got other interests, and he sometimes does videos on those interests. He's talked about, for instance, you know, games dying and why he feels that that's, you know, a really bad thing. It's an atrocity in his mind. He's put out a fantastic video called Games as a Service. He's talked about like automation and how, you know, the thought of how automation is killing jobs, but he talks about it goes a whole lot deeper than that it just wasn't enough jobs to go on. I find those videos to be a lot more interesting and, in my mind, a lot more valuable than just the pure entertainment comedy ones he does. And because he's already built up enough goodwill, he can talk about these topics. Every now and then he'll throw those videos out, and they'll still do pretty well. That's what I would like to do with my channel, to be perfectly honest. And I think because I treat this channel more as a hobby, I might be able to get away with it a little bit more because, well, I shouldn't say get away with it, because if you guys don't like it, you don't like it, you just say to hell with you, then that's something I'm just going to have to swallow. I can't dictate what you guys want to watch. You know, I can't force you guys to watch a video of mine just because I think it's interesting. You decide what you want to watch. You should be able to pick out your own form of entertainment or source of information or what have you. That's not up to me. All I do is just present it. It's up to you to pick it up. And if you don't want to pick it up, it'll be dumb of me to take offense. Not everybody's going to be into the same thing. Though that being said, I also do take some umbrage when people feel like, okay, your channel should only be about this. Like, I remember several years back, I completely forgot what the video was on, but I talked about something other than martial arts. I forgot what it was. It might have been about video games. I don't know. And somebody in the comment section was like, what the hell is this? We come to your channel to watch sword stuff. What the hell is this for? Put up sword stuff. That's what you're supposed to be doing. And I'm like, who the hell are you to tell me what to do on my own damn channel? Especially since I'm quite certain you're not putting any money in my pocket. What the hell are you doing? So, I mean, just as I feel like I have a right, or at least I should be able to put up what I want on my channel in the hopes that you guys can watch it, you guys have a right to just say, I ain't interested in this, and walk off. I think that's fair. And I don't feel, because again, this channel's really not, this is not how I make money. This is not how I feed my family. You know, this is not how I, make sure that my son is taken care of. You know, I feel a little less pressure in having to stay with just one thing. But I don't think that the content creators out there who are trying to leverage this as their main source of income, or those who already have, I think they might have a much harder, they have a much harder chance, I guess, of being able to pivot to a topic that they may want to talk about that isn't what their channel is known for. And especially nowadays, where with YouTube being set up the way it is, and with the algorithm or whatever going on the way it is, it's risky as all hell just veering off in a different direction when your income source is dwindling. And the stress and the burnout you get from that, it's got to be intense. I really do feel sorry for a lot of content creators right now, and the stress that they must be going under when they see their income being cut in half or worse through no fault of their own. That's not something that I want to have to go through, which again is why I'm kind of glad that I have the channel set up the way it is. I only have 18,000 subscribers, though I say that kind of with quotes, because personally in my mind, every day I'm like, what the hell am I doing with 18,000 subscribers? What the hell? 18,000 people are interested in what I have to say? That's insane. That's how I look at it. So when I'm like other people who are like, got hundreds of thousands of subscribers or a million subscribers, it's like, wow, now that's an influential dude or influential woman or whatever. But I mean, at least from the way YouTube does its ad revenue, 18,000 really isn't much to live off of. Again, I get nothing off ads. I got barely anything off ads. Like, I probably get a $100 paycheck from Google maybe once a year, if that. It's part of the reason why I put up the Patreon one for a brief moment in time. I'm like, maybe this, I might be able to make at least a side income off of that. But again, I don't blame you guys for not really jumping on the Patreon thing, because one, the tier system I have on it is a mess, and I keep saying I need to fix it. And the only major reason why I haven't completely fixed it yet is because I still haven't been able to get everybody on Patreon to join with me in a meeting to properly set the tiers up, because I don't want to change things without my Patreon supporters say so. I want their input. I don't think it's fair for me to just change it on them after they've been paying already. Like I really feel that they should have a say. Some say in how things are set up and if they're happy with it. Another reason is because I just don't really advertise it all that much. I mean, I don't say, how everybody says, comment and like and subscribe and join my page. Everyone does that in their videos now to remind people. I don't do that because I figure, look, I got it in the freaking text description, and if you feel that what I'm doing is valuable enough for $1, great. And I'm going to be perfectly honest. If like only a third of the people that supposedly have subscribed to me all put it at a buck, that would probably be enough for me to quit my job, because that's like what, $6,000 a month? Sheesh. Then I would probably be like putting more effort into like making this a full-time thing. But that's not the way life is, and it's not something I want to force on people, especially in today's economy. Sheesh. The way things are going right now, I would be very surprised if anybody can part with $1. Jeez. I'm kind of going a bit off topic, but it's kind of like, I guess, throw my own 2 cents on the anxiety that people are feeling with YouTube. I honestly think that this is a symptom of a much larger problem. Namely, the fact that there is only so much blood that you can squeeze out of a stone. What do I mean by that? Well, to kind of go into a topic that I think is going to make some people uncomfortable, everybody is trying to find some way to be able to live life as free as they possibly can. Like, let's be brutally honest with one another. The everyday 9-to-5 grind is not appealing. And sheesh. Well, the funny thing is, I'll take that back. If your job is just a 9-to-5 and you're able to live off of that, I'm quite certain a lot of people would find that a lot more appealing than what we got right now. Nowadays, you got people working double time. You got people in overtime. You got people working 2-3 jobs and they can barely make ends meet. You got people out there who, they're making maybe $50,000 a year solo and they still can't afford to buy their own home. There was a time when I was still living in the Midwest, I was making less than that, and I actually had my own home. I was paying a mortgage. Those days are gone. Those days are gone. The workforce these days is freaking atrocious. You're burning tons of hours of your life to make somebody else wealthy, and you make barely enough to survive off of that. Is it any wonder that there's a whole lot of get-rich-quick scheme stuff going on out there? Bitcoin, NFTs, YouTube was supposed to be another angle. I could just make videos and then put money, food on the table that way. All these people are trying to find all these different ways of being able to sustain themselves. Because one, the regular day grind is getting rougher and rougher and giving less and less for it. And to be even more blunt, there really isn't enough work out there for people to be able to get and sustain themselves with. But if you are not able to bring in a certain amount of income, your life is hell. And even if you got a job, your life probably still is hell because you could barely make ends meet, much less live comfortably. All this stuff that people are doing to try to be financially, independent, which usually just simply means wealthy. People really just have a desire to be rich, or at least be able to make an income without breaking their backs to do so. It's all to attain a state of existence that is very hard to get. Freedom, where you can live how you want to live without any major restrictions. If you're rich, you can live that way. We already know that. But idealistically, you shouldn't have to be rich in order to be able to live a comfortable life. Like, if you got, let's just say you had a job where you have your bills paid, got your needs met, got a little plot of land, your house or whatever, and you have time for yourself to pursue your hobbies and your interests, you would be happy, right? We're not living lives like that. And the way the economy is going, the way the world is going, it's just harder and harder and harder for the average person to be able to live that way. YouTube, for a brief moment in time, was seen by many to be one escape from the dreariness that they thought everyday life was going to be like. And now that's being taken away, slowly but surely, for a variety of reasons. And that's making, people feel a lot more anxious, especially if for a while they were living fine with it and now it's being squeezed away. If it suddenly gets completely taken away from you, what do you got? Going back to the workforce? If you've been doing this for 5, 6, 7 years, how are you going to be able to dive back in and be able to make enough money to sustain yourself when you don't really have any quote unquote marketable skills to show because you haven't been in the workforce? It's just it's like this worm in your mind that's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger as you feel the squeeze on you. I think the whole YouTube thing is just another symptom of just how much rougher it seems to be in order to be able to just put food on your table, to say nothing about living comfortably. And that's one of the major reasons why I feel happy that, and again, this is nothing against other content creators, and I'm not trying to make them feel worse. In fact, I wish every content creator, even the ones I don't like, I really hope things turn around so that they can make more money off of this. Because if this is something that they like to do, and they're able to provide enjoyment for other people, by all means, I think they should be able to keep doing it. But because of the way things are going, I'm glad that this is just a hobby channel for me, because I can only imagine the type of stress that they're going under, seeing their income shrinking like this and wondering what the hell are they going to be able to do a couple of years down the line. And at the same time that I'm glad that I have some other source of income and, I'm sustaining off of that, I am actually still glad that I have this channel the way it is, where I'm actually able to talk to you guys about these things, and that you guys are still willing to watch them. I mean, I don't think that all 18,000 subscribers are still watching my channel. Some people just fall off and just forget to unsubscribe. I mean, but those of you who are still watching, or those of you who have been with me since the very beginning, I really do feel blessed that you guys are still here watching me go gray and still willing to listen to what I have to say. And with that being said, and I know I've said it before, but I really do mean it, expect some different topics to pop up on the channel, because I do want this to be, I don't want to have burnout. And one of the best ways for me to not burn out is to talk about different things every now and then. I still plan on talking about martial arts and swords. That is still a passion of mine. In fact, I got one sword I beat the hell out of, and it's actually still doing pretty good, and I can't wait to show the footage on that one. I really want to talk about some of the things that I recently found out with one of the older swords that I've been using. And there's some more martial arts stuff. I got a couple of ideas that I want to do that's even going to possibly, hopefully, lead to a collaboration with some people, depending on how I do it. I got plans for the whole martial arts side of things and sword side of things. But there's other things that I really want to start talking about that I've been sitting on for years. And I think it's about time for me to do it. If you guys decide to join me for the ride on that, great. If not, I understand. And it's not like you can't, like, sheesh, if you're like, I'm willing to watch these videos, but not these videos, that's perfectly fine. Again, I have no right to dictate what you can and can't watch. So, I know this was sort of rambly, though I hope that I, at the very least, gave you some idea of how I feel about the whole YouTube thing. Do I feel that the whole, situation for content creators in YouTube sucks? Yes. Do I think it's purely malicious on the part of Google? Not necessarily. I think ultimately it's simply because of a difference in priorities. There are things that content creators want, and then there are things that the platform holders want. And those things, those desires are always going to diverge. It's just the nature of the beast. Hopefully things will get straightened out, or at least hopefully things will get a little bit more comfortable for those who are making content on YouTube, to the point where they can be able to comfortably make a living. But if things continue in the trajectory I see them in, all I can say is, good luck. But who knows? Who knows? Because I don't think it's impossible for things to get better for content creators on YouTube. I really don't. Time will tell. Hope you guys got something out of this. Sorry it's kind of long and rambly. Catch you guys later.